Pokemon investing landscape is changing. That is what today's video topic is all about. Now, this is going to be one of those videos where you don't need to see anything on the screen. So just pop it in your headphones while you're going for a walk, pop it on the telly while you're doing some housework, or put it on in the car while you're heading for a spin. Like everyone else, you've probably heard the news, or I've certainly heard the news, about the new advancements to Pokemon's printing capacity. Now, this is interesting news, but not out of the ordinary, I don't think. I don't think it's all that surprising. Like, any company ever don't want to leave anything on the table. Like, that's the crux of it, isn't it? Like, if there is people that are literally going into shops and can't get cards, or jumping online and can't buy cards, Pokemon is leaving money on the table. They're consumers that would have otherwise purchased something if it was available. And I know this firsthand. I know this firsthand from the card industry. In case you don't know, of course, my name is Michael. I've been in the Pokemon card investing space for quite some time, and the buying and selling space and collecting space since I can remember, since the inception of Base Set, but I also work at Toyota in car sales. Now, when it comes to car sales, we've had plenty of scenarios at Toyota where we've left money on the table. We've had consumers come into our dealership saying, I need a car inside 3 or 4 weeks, preferably in about a fortnight. I'd love a RAV4 hybrid. And we go, we just can't supply it. Like, we just cannot get a car that quickly. And that's been the flavor of the month for the last 5 years. Now, there's every chance that consumer then goes and buys something else, whether it be, a Mazda or a Honda or some of the new Chinese brands that are hitting Australia, whatever it might be. We've lost a sale. Like, Toyota Australia has left money on the table. And that's what this video is going to be all about. The new printing facility, what it means for us as collectors, investors, what it could possibly mean for the future, and where we could guide our decisions based off of that. Now, all I've done is read the exact same article from Pokey Beach that you guys and girls probably have as well. I haven't had time. Christmas has been very busy. I'm about to go away for a little bit, so I'm filming this video a couple of days in advance. I haven't had a chance to even watch anyone else's thoughts or opinions on this, so this is just my thoughts and opinions on what's going to happen. So let's delve into the crux of the article really quickly without going into too much detail about it, but it's the biggest acquisition we've seen for a lease of a facility in 2025. So that is massive, like bigger than any other company has acquired, leasing a facility to produce goods. That's just insane for the US, insane for Pokemon. It shows the power, the buying prestige, the might of the Pokemon card beast. Now, keep in mind that the Millennium Print Group, which was acquired by the Pokemon Company International a couple of years ago to increase printing facility, it's now going up again. So this is showing steady growth for the company, isn't it? If you've acquired something to improve printing performance, and now you've acquired or leased a new space, 400,000 square feet, I believe, is already acquired, done, signed off. And then there is more to come, like lots more to come. That's only a third, I think, of the space that's already been acquired. The rest is being built and expected to be completed in 2027, I believe, based off this article. Now, with all that in mind, let's say you've acquired the first 400,000 square feet. It's really weird as an Australian talking in square feet. We talk square meters or building squares down here, but square feet. Look, having known that acquisition was coming into play, there's only a couple of things left you need to do. Like, really, you would think if that acquisition's in play that maybe the companies that build your printers that can print your cards, you've already said, hey, look, we're acquiring this space. The deal's about to be done. We need some more printers. You've just got to put those in. You've, of course, got to put staff in. And then, of course, you've got to apply the same operating procedures that you had at the other places in place and get it humming again, like printing cards and starting to send those packages of cards off to distributors and therefore onto the market for consumers to eventually purchase. So that's the big question. Like, how close are we in that scenario? That first 400,000, like, is it almost ready to go? Like, are we going to see a ramp up of production of cards in the next 6 months, 3 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months? Are we going to wait until the full thing's complete in 2027? There's some unknowns, but let's talk about printing and supply and demand and what we've seen. And to relate back to that scenario about leaving money on the table that I gave you right at the start of this video, that rings true for any business. Like, you just don't, as a business, want to be leaving any money on the table. Like, I'm sure there's been a million examples that you've heard and that are unheard of people like parents maybe just going in to buy their, to the local Walmart or Kmart or Target just to buy their kids some Pokemon cards for Christmas, and they just weren't there. They just couldn't get them. There's probably countless examples of adults like myself and your age that are going in just wanting to rip open some packs or maybe buy an Elite Trainer box to put as part of a sealed collection, and it's just not there. It just doesn't exist. And therefore, there's so much money being left on the table. Now look, I think there's also a fine line to draw here for the Pokemon Company. I think they're smart enough to figure this out. What they don't want to do is completely obliterate the secondary market. The secondary market is so important to them. Okay, not only is there kids buying these cards just to have fun and open and collect, there's a massive player base, of course, that will open these packs, have awesome fun game nights at their local card store with mates and make new friends and go in tournaments and have competitions. And of course there's sealed collectors that just literally buy them to have sealed collections. And then of course there's the investor side. Moreover than that, across that whole span, whether it's a 8-year-old through to an 80-year-old, eventually there becomes this really important secondary market to the Pokemon space. And that's so important because it drives demand for the initial purchase for a lot of players. I mean, why on earth would you want to rip open packs if there's nothing in there? Like, okay, yeah, you might want to play the game with your friends, but if you can't chase a $500 card or a $1,000 card and know full well that possibly in the future this could become a $2,000 card, like if the best you can pull is a $1 card, like that's going to wipe so many people off the map. So the Pokemon Company, I think, are so direct in making good decisions around that. They know how important the secondary market will be, so that they'll also know how important it is to not obliterate the market, and that is just send so much product out there that it just sits on distribution shelves for ages and they just cannot get rid of it. And we've seen it before. We have seen it before. An overcorrection. Think back to 2020, we had sets like Vivid Voltage and Darkness Ablaze come out and demand was crazy. Supply was affected by COVID and of course demand went up, and as a result we had the same scenario that we were at now. Either you paid massive amounts of money for a Darkness Ablaze or Vivid Voltage booster box, or even Battle Styles when it first came out on the secondary market, or you go into your store and hope to get one for retail, but 9 times out of 10 there was just nothing there and you couldn't buy it for retail, or even stores were charging well above retail. So we've seen it before, and what happened? Of course, printing went up, and when you get this difference in supply demand, then, as in there's more supply to what there is demand, then you absolutely tank the market. And that's what happened on sets like Darkness Ablaze and Vivid Voltage. Now, I'm not saying they're great sets, especially Darkness Ablaze. It's a terrible Pokemon card set. But Vivid Voltage is a little bit better. Maybe if the pull rates for amazing rares are a bit tougher, maybe if we had another nice rainbow electric type Pokemon inside their card as well as the Pikachu, who knows? Like it could have been a touch better. But point is, because of the overprinting of those sets, they sat as both a sealed product for so long on the market, and then the singles, which were actually worth quite a bit when they first come out. Believe it or not, a PSA 10 Darkness Ablaze Charizard VMAX was actually worth some money for the first 6 months, as was the Rainbow Pikachu in a PSA 10. That was worth lots of money for the first 6 months. That was an expensive Pokemon card. You had to pay north of $1,000 to pick that up in a PSA 10. And then it drops like $800 and everyone's like, how low can it go? And now, I don't even know what it is now. Is it probably a couple $100, maybe $300 USD in a PSA 10? Point is, you're going to tank singles if you do that. But moreover, the sealed product, you're going to tank its longevity, which is painful. Like it's taken 5 years from 2020 to now for Darkness Ablaze and Vivid Voltage to finally see some appreciation in their sealed product. That's a bit tough for the secondary market. It's a bit tough of a pill for investors to swallow. And we don't want to see that happening again. What we do want to see, or I think the whole aim of this venture, is to actually see that you're not leaving money on the table. That all people that go to purchase Pokemon cards will be able to get them. I think that is the aim. Now, before we jump into what this means for us predominantly as investors, because of course this is an investing channel, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, which is of course the Collector app. If you don't have it, there'll be a link in the description. Fantastic app. It's so easy to use. Excited to see where this goes in 2026, what new features. There's new trade features, so you can see, I see these questions pop up everywhere, like, if I have this and I want to swap it for this, is it a fair trade? You can literally punch that into the collector app now under the trade section and it'll tell you if it's a fair trade. How easy is that? The big one is though for investors, set analytics. Any set you go into for Pokemon, you can check set analytics, will show you total set value. I always harp on about how important the total set value is. That's the chase cards. How good are the chase cards? How much they're worth? Those figures are so important for the future investability of those sealed products. The higher the total set value, the more investable that product's going to be long term. Awesome app. There's always sick pro user giveaways and the data for a pro user is massive. You can see like the last 5+ years of data across any set, including set analytics now. So awesome app. There'll be a link in the description to download that. Next part of this video, what does this mean as collectors, investors? What does it mean about where you should put your hard-earned dollars? This is probably the most important part of the video. So I hope you're still watching, or sorry, I hope you're still listening. I love doing these sort of podcast style videos where we don't have to go over data and numbers. It's really just a conversation. They're my favorite sort of videos to listen to. I love listening to podcasts, either when I'm at the gym or going for a walk or something, or just doing some gardening or work in the backyard. Love listening to podcast style videos. Love listening to someone talk. So I hope you guys and girls at home enjoy them too. So the most important part, where to put your money. Now, this is the hard part, isn't it? We know Ascended Heroes is about to come out. We're obviously in the Mega Evolution block. We'll come out of the Scarlet and Violet block, and Sword and Shield block seems a long way in the rearview mirror now. And there are a few sets all the way up to Paldean Fates that'll be going out of rotation from Scarlet and Violet era next April. So once those sets go out of rotation, I just find it so unlikely that any of those sets will get a reprint or be impacted by this new printing facility. Now that doesn't mean it can't happen. Like, it probably could be argued that some of those early Scarlet and Violet sets, particularly something like a Paldean Fates, never met demand. Like the prices for those shot up so much it was insane. So you could of course argue that those sets, or that set in particular, never met demand. So out of rotation, with this new printing facility, could we see a new Paldean Fates? Look, I think they could capitalize on it. I think if that happened, people would still buy it, even if it was out of rotation, that chase for the Bubble Mew, etc. But is it likely? Look, I don't think it is likely. I think one of the issues we're having, and there was a statement made around Prismatic Evolution's time that was basically saying, we know we cannot supply enough of this product. And we will do our best over the coming 12 months to make sure we supply enough of this product. Pokemon knew that was their golden child. It was their January holiday set from this year, 2025. Our January holiday set from 2026 is going to be Ascended Heroes. Now, the lineup for that set looks absolutely insane. The chase cards with Gengar, Dragonite, those two cards can well and truly anchor a set. They are phenomenal looking Pokemon cards from what I've seen. Plus it looks like we're getting a gold Dragonite, a gold Charizard. This set looks like it's going to be massive. There are some other really nice artworks and chase cards inside this set. It reminds me of those beautiful January holiday sets that we've seen for the last few years. Prismatic Evolutions, Paldean Fates, Crown Zenith, and now, fast forward, we're of course seeing Ascended Heroes. This is going to be massive, and Pokemon have already said the same statement that they've said to Prismatic Evolutions, that they think they can't supply enough of it. And as a result, these new printing facilities will help them to not leave money on the table. I don't think the whole plan of this is just to completely destroy the market. The plan of it is to not leave money on the table. It's as simple as that. The same thing happened with that car analogy. Like, we have begged and begged Japan to give us more RAV4 hybrids here in Australia. Why? So we can meet demand. So we can supply those cars to customers that want to buy them, rather than them going and buying something else, which was probably their second or third motor car choice, rather than their first choice, which was the RAV4 hybrid. And that's exactly what we don't want to happen, because that's what will happen. Like, a parent goes in because it's their kid's birthday and they go, I want to buy them some packs of Ascended Heroes. Let's just put it as part of their present. And they're not there. So what do? They buy something else. They're like, oh, we're here now. What do we get? A pop vinyl? What do we get? Maybe some, they don't mind. In Australia, we have AFL. Oh, they don't mind AFL. Let's get them some AFL cards instead. Or they don't mind NBA. Let's get them some NBA cards instead. Oh, they sort of don't mind a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh. Let's get them some Yu-Gi-Oh cards instead. That is, in my opinion, what the whole idea behind this is, to not leave money on the table as a business. I don't think we're going to see a massive tanking of the secondary market. But still with that, where to put your money? Like, sometimes I think when it comes to investing, you've got to hedge your bets and be safe a little bit. Like, I would personally park money still into Sword and Shield. And if I had choices, like all the way up to the eye block in, is it eye block? In Scarlet and Violet, which I think is Journey Together onwards. So that would keep Prismatic safe, in my opinion, because these are the sets that'll be out of rotation a fair bit later. So there's every chance we could see, you know, reprints of Destined Rivals, which of course, you know, we know how hard that's still in rotation for the next few years, guys. Don't forget, it's got a long time, and I think it's right up until 2028. So we could see reprints of these sets that just no one could get enough of now. It certainly wouldn't surprise me. But safety-wise, investing, I think it'll accelerate people's investments into Sword and Shield. Not only is our last Pokemon cards with yellow borders, which I've harped on and on about, it has beautiful alt art. I still think the alt arts are nicer looking Pokemon cards than the special illustration rares we've been seeing in Scarlet and Violet era. Even more than that, I would also put some money into early Scarlet and Violet sets, Padawan Fates, in the hope that it doesn't get reprinted by this block that I just mentioned. Padawan Fates is a beautiful Pokemon card set. The Elite Trainer boxes will be worth good money. Even sets, in my opinion, like I said, up to that eye block, so Prismatic should be somewhat safe, in my opinion. Even sets like, this is an underrated one, and I know I didn't give it the most love when it first came out, but I really like Twilight Masquerade. It's got a big chase. Big chase in that Greninja. Something different. Like, it is something different to chase that we haven't seen for a while. And also, it's got two beautiful trainer cards inside there, as well as a really nice Eevee. So it has a strong top 4, in my opinion. That's important. A strong top 5 is so important to a Pokemon card set. Surging Sparks, I get it. People are going, like it's, you know, this not the best looking Pikachu, but I think it'll perform quite well. Like, some of these mid-era Scarlet and Violet sets are pretty strong Pokemon card sets that'll go well over time. But Sword and Shield, you cannot go wrong. Like, and it reminds me to Sun and Moon when this was in a similar place. You know, when you could buy, and I'm talking USD here, when you could buy Unbroken Bonds, Unified Minds, even Cosmic Eclipse for like that $500 to $600 US mark, or $450 to $600 US mark, with Cosmic Eclipse being the more expensive out of the three. And everyone goes, oh, it's appreciated so much. Like, the printers have stepped up. Everyone's on Sword and Shield. It's so popular. We're at the end of Sword and Shield block, about to get into Scarlet and Violet. Should we even invest in Unified Minds and Unbroken Bonds and Cosmic Eclipse? And it's like, imagine where you'd be now. They're like $2,000 booster boxes now. And I think the same thing will happen. We've got a lot of Sword and Shield sets. Astral Radiance is underrated. Brilliant Stars is underrated. Chilling Reign's underrated. Fusion Strike's still somewhat okay as a price. And Lost Origin even. Like, those sets, where they currently sit, in that, you know, like somewhere around $400 to $800 US mark, depending on whether we're talking Astral Radiance all the way up to Fusion Strike. Like, in 3 or 5 years' time, you're going to look back and go, they were cheap sets at that price. And you know what? They're also going to be safe from this new print. Like, you're playing the safe card there, in my opinion. I know they're expensive, and I know you could probably get 2 booster boxes of Scarlet and Violet for the same price, but these are starting to get rare. And we're seeing the same thing, like I said, with those Sun and Moon sets like Unbroken, Unified, and Cosmic Eclipse. That's just my thoughts around the new printing facility. Hope everyone has a fantastic holiday break, and we'll do one roundup video very shortly for 2025. I'll chat to you then.